Welcome back to Port Elizabeth, the beautiful city. This is part 24. We're in Park Drive, not Abbey Road, although one would expect to see the Beatles walking across this zebra crossing. But this is St. George's Preparatory School, which has a history that I'll unveil shortly. So as you can probably just see here is an English flag, an England flag. There's a South African flag somewhere there as well. So that's a little bit of an indicator that we're talking about a lot of English heritage here. On the gate post here is the date 1899. And there's the English flag. It's flying alongside a South African flag. So this is now a private school, a sort of upmarket school. But fortunately, they've retained this beautiful building. So it says here the St. George's Prep School was founded in 1936 by Raymond Hutchinson. The first enrolled 50 boys. Okay, so that's just about the school. I'm more interested in the building. Here we go. Knockfernia, which means Hill of Fairies or Truth, was built in 1899 as a Victorian mansion by wool merchant John Daveron. He and his wife, Clothilda, raised 7 children in grand style befitting this era. Imagine living in a mansion like this. And then I went around the side, and there's interesting buildings at the back here. It's almost like it had, where they kept the horses, the stables, and the sort of, I don't know. It's worth just, we do actually visit these buildings at the back on a later walk. But look at the ornate wall all around it. It's a nice distant shot, considering I was using a fairly cheap point and shoot camera. Then we head further around, and this is the main entrance to the St. George's Park Cricket Stadium, a sort of Art Deco design. And there are 2 bronze plaques that we need to look at. One is there, and the other is there. So I think we zoom in on that one. It's still not very clear, but it says, upon this ground occupied by the PE Cricket Club since 1859, the first cricket test match to be played in South Africa took place in 1889. And then there's this nice little sort of, I don't think it's stained glass, but anyway, it's probably that depicts that cricket test from 1889. And on the other side, it says, this club was first founded in 1887 and has used this field since. The first rugby test played in South Africa took place here in 1891. So at one stage, Port Elizabeth had more English-speaking people than Cape Town after the arrival of the British settlers. In fact, if it wasn't for the British settlers arriving en masse, like 4,500 people, all living in one sort of area, there is speculation that English might never have become the lingua franca of this country. It required that sort of mass of people to retain the language and not lose, because Dutch was the prevalent language among the European settlers at the time throughout the Cape Colony. So it was these settlers who introduced English and with it all these aspects of English British culture, like cricket and rugby. So that's the original stand at St. George's Park. And then to celebrate that 100th anniversary, they built the centenary stands, which are these here. It's mainly boxes and changing rooms for the teams and so forth. And then in 1990 odd, early 90s, they built a Duck Pond Pavilion, which you can't really see, but it's back there somewhere. So heading back out, there's another mansion across the road. So we have a look, and this is now a psychiatric hospital, Hunters Craig. But again, you know, stunning place. And this is how the elite, the first people to sort of move, really make big money and move into this prosperous area around St. George's Park. This is how they lived there. So you can't really see much here, but that's a long view of the Duck Pond Pavilion. And here we got an Art Deco delight, as I've called it. And this is actually where my book, 200 Years, A Celebration of Port Elizabeth, these are the people who published it and took the risk. And we've sold, they printed 800 copies, and they've sold well over half in the last year or so. So it's doing quite well. But we're interested now, okay, it's the Gucci Family Investments Art Gallery, GFI. So it's in this building. One of the finest examples of Art Deco architecture in the city. In 1936, Axel Stockelbach, then managing director of Ford, South Africa, which had opened in Port Elizabeth about 10 years earlier, commissioned the first woman architect in the country to qualify in South Africa, Gertrude Brinkmann, to design this house, Ridgewood. So unfortunately, the Gucci family took it over. In 1988, Philip Gucci purchased the house, and he wanted it turned into a gallery for the Ron Belling Military Aviation collection of paintings, which they purchased. And that is a permanent exhibition here, although it's not always up. But this is where it was originally known as the Ron Belling Gallery. But subsequently, it's become the kind of place for artists to exhibit. So there's exhibitions opening on a regular basis here. So yeah, there's 150 paintings and drawings done by Belling, Ron Belling, who was a former municipal architect, artist and photographer. He took some wonderful pictures of the old South End, particularly. And this is just an aerial view of St. George's Park. We saw earlier when I was showing you that one from 1942. That was when the Air Force had a camp here. And in this corner was where we saw that little little wooden shed, which has been demolished. And all this area, I think, was occupied by those sheds. There must have been at least 3 dozen of them. So this was a big military installation during the Second World War. I'd love to know the actual story behind that. I think it's now a football field or something, cricket maybe. This is the Union Cricket Ground, which we saw in, I think, the previous one, with Charlie Cribb across here somewhere. So this is the St. George's Park Cricket Ground with the Duck Pond Pavilion. The swimming pool, which is now evidently not in great shape. The famous tennis, historic tennis setup there. Down here is that first bowling club we saw, and then the main historic one over here. And then a nice walkway with the Pearson Conservatory there. And this is the Prince Alfred Guard Memorial. It's Park Drive all the way around here. Okay, so I think we're going to call it for this one at this point, and see you next time. Cheers.